Hey everyone, what's up? Erling Haaland's current form is absolutely terrifying. In 14 games, the guy has scored 18 goals. Do the math, that's more than a goal per game. It's just insane. He's truly Manchester City's main man, right? Because having a super striker with such a frightening scoring rate is something many other big clubs can only dream of. But everything has two sides, and Manchester City is also facing some issues because of this. So, what's the problem? Let's dive in and find out. Alright, first, we need to understand why Haaland is playing so well. The credibility of Man City's number 9 has been proven for a long time. In fact, we've even made a few videos praising Haaland to the skies. But his recent run of form has been beyond imagination. From the start of the season across all competitions, club and country, Haaland has scored in 15 of the 17 matches he's played in, with a total of 27 goals. And probably many of you aren't surprised, because with the evolution in his playing style, this was an inevitable outcome. It was just a matter of time. This season we're witnessing a major change in Haaland's off-the-ball movement. The Norwegian striker has been actively dropping deeper, moving into the spaces between the lines more often to link up with his teammates in midfield. Simultaneously, he's honed his skills so that these deeper drops are now always handled neatly and effectively. Like this situation, Man City's number 9 drops very deep to receive the ball, then passes out wide to Doku, who gets a one-on-one opportunity leading to a goal. This change is understandable. With the absence of Kevin De Bruyne this season, Haaland no longer has someone who can continuously pump out those magical, defense-splitting passes for him to just lounge up top waiting. Now he'll drop deeper more actively to create connections with his teammates, thereby creating chances for himself in later phases of the attack. Many might think that a super striker like Haaland dropping deep would make him less dangerous. But not at all, because these deep movements put opposing defenders in a very uncomfortable position. If they let Haaland have space, the area between their lines will be ruthlessly exploited, especially when Man City plays with that 3-for-3 diamond formation with 3 midfielders always looking to attack that very space. But if they mark the Norwegian number 9 tightly, he can easily play 1-2s with his teammates, then burst forward with pace and attack the space left by the defender who came out to mark him. With a top speed that has reached 36 km/h, once Haaland is in full stride, very few central defenders can keep up, right? Look at this, a similar deep drop, but the difference here is he's closely marked by a center-back. Yet, the Norwegian striker still handles it calmly and neatly, laying the ball off to Rico Lewis beside him, something we've been hoping he'd master for a long time. After that, he just accelerates towards goal, completely leaving Gabriel in the dust, trying to chase back. And it's not just evolution in his supportive movement. Haaland has also sharpened his movement inside the penalty area, which was already a major weapon of his. His runs now are incredibly sharp. He finds space at the far post, near post, or central areas very intelligently, and he's developed some really clever moves to shake off his markers. Because of this, if you've been following this season, you'll see the frequency of Haaland scoring headers has increased. This shows how well he moves in the box to get the better of defenders in aerial duels. Well, being tall is already an advantage, of course. Here's an example. Initially, Haaland peels off towards the far post to separate himself from his marker, making it harder to track him. Then he times his run perfectly to speed past both Monaco center-backs. And of course, a simple nod of the head and it's a goal. So, Haaland changed to become better. And this season, Manchester City is also changing to cater very thoughtfully to their long-haired muse. Pep has been moving away from his extreme possession-based style, switching to a more direct, higher-risk approach. This is a style Haaland loves, as it opens up more space for him to utilize his devastating runs in behind and his incredible pace. Look, for example, at this play, if it was the old Man City, they'd keep passing side to side looking for an opening first. But the 2025 Man City sees Haaland making a run, and they just play the through ball immediately. There are even moments where Pep accepts dropping the team deeper, luring the opponent forward to open up space for Haaland. Like in the match against Arsenal, remember? With service like that, it'd be strange if Haaland didn't explode continuously, right? However, this quietly creates a problem. Currently, Manchester City is becoming very dependent on the Norwegian striker. Remember I said Haaland scored in 15 out of 17 games? Well, do you know which 2 games he didn't score in? Surely Man City fans will remember right away. In those 2 games, the whole Man City team also failed to score. Those were against Aston Villa and Tottenham Hotspur. See, that's not a random coincidence. The statistics below will definitely make everyone reconsider. Up until before the Dortmund match, Manchester City scored a total of 26 goals in the Premier League and Champions League combined. Of those, 17 came from Haaland, to 65% of the team's total goals. If we look solely at the Premier League, no other Manchester City player has scored more than 1 goal. Well, actually, there is one player who scored 2 goals. But this person isn't a Manchester City player. That's the funny part. Do you remember who scored 2 goals for Manchester City but isn't a player for the club? Comment below. But see, we mentioned that to show that the Norwegian is carrying the scoring load for Pep almost entirely by himself. This is a very abnormal ratio, because even at other big clubs, their main scorer usually accounts for about a quarter of the team's goals. Or if someone scores a lot, maybe 1/3. For example, Salah scored 34 goals last season, but that was only 28% of Liverpool's total. Even compared to Haaland himself in previous seasons, his ratio hovered around 1/3 of the team's goals. It didn't spike to this extent. Haaland's current numbers are more typical of a one-man army team. The Premier League also provided a stat, like the one you see on screen. Players who have a goal contribution share of over half their team's total are usually from teams like Sunderland, Crystal Palace, or Southampton, mostly relegation battling teams, right? There's only one person who carried a top team like that, the legend Alan Shearer at Blackburn Rovers, which happened 20 years ago. And even his share still wasn't as high as Haaland's. It's not just about goals. Other stats show how much Man City relies on Haaland. The 2000-born star has currently created a total of 12 XG expected goals, which is also over half of Man City's total XG of 20.8. The number 9 has also taken 55 of the team's total 230 shots. These stats indicate one thing: if something unfortunate happens to Haaland, and of course, no one wants that, but if it does, Man City loses almost 25% of their attacking power. And the worst part, this has already become a reality in the match against Aston Villa. Unai Emery's team did an excellent job that day isolating Haaland from the rest of the team. Aston Villa set up a mid-block in a 5-for-1 shape with very compact lines. They used physically strong players like Konsa, Kamara, and Pau Torres to operate close to Haaland, ready to engage in duels with the Norwegian striker. The result, all of Haaland's stats plummeted drastically compared to his season average, and he had arguably his worst game in months. As for Man City, a team that had been scoring for fun, they suddenly got shut out in this match and suffered a 1-0 defeat. Very unfortunate. See, just do a good job neutralizing Haaland, and it's done. Of course, easier said than done, but it's a point that needs to be made, right? Lately, Pep hasn't been using alternative scoring options like Julian Alvarez or Jack Grealish much, preferring traditional wingers like Sabinho, Bernardo Silva, Doku, or using Phil Foden, but he's trying to turn him into a kind of wide number 8, not fixed in positions close to Haaland anymore. On top of that, Haaland's overwhelming scoring ability is creating a sense of dependency within the rest of the Man City squad. Sometimes they seem solely focused on finding ways to feed the ball to the Norwegian striker, forgetting to make penetrating runs into the box themselves. So in many situations, I feel Haaland looks quite lonely inside the 18-yard box, surrounded by opponents, even though his teammates could easily make runs to create more threats. Here's a play like that, when Sabinho gets a one-on-one situation on the wing. The midfielders don't make any supporting runs. This allows Aston Villa to crowd players around Haaland in the center without worrying about any runs from deep. To visualize it better, for those who watch Arsenal, their midfielders, especially Martin Dedegaard, often make those kinds of runs from deep. And to solve this problem, it's simple, just do the opposite of what Pep is currently doing. First, deploy other dangerous attacking players closer to Haaland. This way, Haaland won't be isolated, and Man City will have more options to exploit the space behind the defense when the number 9 drops to link play. Second, their midfielders need to be more diligent about making runs beyond Haaland. Currently, Rico Lewis does it, but he alone isn't enough. There will always be enough space for those penetrating runs because of the massive defensive attention Haaland attracts inside. If they execute these runs more frequently, the opposition will definitely be distracted. They'll be in a dilemma. Should they focus completely on neutralizing Haaland and accept other players making runs, or should they spread their marking to cover those runs, but in doing so, give Haaland less attention? So overall, the problem is actually quite visible to anyone. Right now, it's not a huge issue because as long as Haaland scores, Man City plays well. However, in the long run, when the Premier League and Champions League enter their most intense stages, when they face tougher, more tactically astute opponents, and the schedule gets more grueling, the chances of the Norwegian star being neutralized more frequently will increase. Let's hope Pep already has some solutions ready for these situations. If not, it could get pretty dicey. What do you guys think, especially you Man City fans? Leave a comment and let us know. Alright, that's all for now. Bye everyone, and see you in the next videos.